They thought humiliating her in front of 200 students would break her forever, but they had no idea who she truly was. What started as one slap in a crowded hallway turned into a lesson that shook the entire school, exposed deep secrets, and turned the tables in ways no one expected. Before you read this unbelievable journey of courage, revenge, and redemption, make sure to subscribe for more stories that will leave you speechless, because this one will change how you see strength forever. Collision. The story begins on a Monday morning at Crestwood High, the kind of place where reputation ruled and cruelty passed for entertainment. Mia Summers was the quiet type, a scholarship student from a modest background surrounded by wealthy kids who wore designer sneakers and arrogance-like badges. She sat in the second row of every class, always prepared, never speaking unless called upon. Her dream was simple: to graduate top of her class, win a university scholarship, and lift her widowed mother out of the endless struggle of double shifts and unpaid bills. But dreams rarely survive unchallenged in halls ruled by bullies. The leader of those bullies was Brittany Collins, a girl born into privilege and power, whose father owned half the buildings in town. Brittany had everything: fame, followers, and a vicious tongue. Her followers, Liam, Jenna, and Claire, were her shadows, echoing her every insult. For months, they mocked Mia for her thrift store clothes, her old backpack, and her quiet voice. Yet Mia endured, clinging to her grades in silence like shields. But then came the day everything changed, the day the slap echoed through the auditorium like thunder. It was during the annual school talent show. Mia had finally found the courage to participate, performing a piano piece she composed herself. The hall was packed with nearly 200 students, teachers, and parents. She had practiced for months, believing that maybe, just maybe, talent would make people see her differently. As she sat on the stage, hands trembling above the keys, Brittany whispered something from the front row, loud enough for everyone to hear: "Let's see if the charity case can even play." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Mia's hands froze. Then she breathed in deeply and began to play, soft, pure, haunting. The melody silenced the laughter, replaced it with awe. But just as she finished, the applause was interrupted by Brittany, who strutted up onto the stage with a mocking smile. "Nice try," she sneered, and before anyone could react, she slapped Mia across the face. Gasps filled the air. Teachers froze. Students raised their phones to record. For a moment, Mia stood there, cheek burning, vision blurring, the sound of whispers stabbing into her. Brittany smirked. "Now you know your place." That was the moment Mia broke, or rather, transformed. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She simply said, calmly, "You'll regret that," and walked off stage. The next day, everything began to unravel. Mia didn't go to school. Instead, she spent the day gathering things: screenshots, emails, recordings. For months she'd endured their bullying silently, but she had also kept evidence. Brittany's fake charity scams, Liam's stolen test answers, Jenna's online trolling accounts, all of it. Mia was no ordinary girl. She had a sharp mind, a knack for technology, and an uncle who worked in cybersecurity. With his help, she compiled a file so detailed it could destroy reputations. She titled it "Mirror," because it reflected their true faces. When she returned to school, she acted normal, quiet, invisible. The bullies thought she'd been humiliated into silence. Little did they know, the revenge had already begun. First came the anonymous social media account, @MirrorTruth. It started posting screenshots of Brittany's fake fundraiser, where she had pocketed donation money meant for animal shelters. Within hours, the entire school was buzzing. Teachers were furious, parents started calling, and Brittany's flawless image began to crack. Then, the next day, MirrorTruth exposed Liam's cheating scandal. One by one, secrets dropped like bombs. The bullies panicked, searching for who was behind it, blaming random classmates, but Mia watched from the sidelines, expression calm. Still, she wasn't satisfied, because revenge wasn't her goal, justice was. The slap had been public, so the truth had to be public too. When Principal Davis called an emergency assembly, Brittany tried to spin the story, crying fake tears about cyberbullying. But right when she claimed innocence, the projector flickered on, and Mia walked onto the stage, carrying a USB drive. The crowd went silent. "If we're talking about bullying," she said softly into the mic, "then let's talk about the truth." She plugged it in, and video after video played: Brittany mocking a disabled student, Claire trash-talking teachers, Jenna faking photos to ruin reputations. The final clip was the slap, caught perfectly by someone's phone. Gasps filled the hall again, but this time the crowd wasn't laughing. They were angry. Teachers stood frozen, students booed, and Brittany's mask finally shattered. She screamed, lunging for Mia, but security stopped her. The principal suspended all of them pending investigation, and by the end of the week, Brittany's parents withdrew her from school out of humiliation. The story went viral. News outlets picked it up. Mia's courage became a symbol across social media. #StandWithMia trended for weeks. Colleges began contacting her with offers. But the biggest twist was yet to come. A month later, Mia was invited to give a speech at a youth empowerment event. She stood on the same stage where she'd been humiliated and said, "When they slapped me, they thought they'd taken my voice." But sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's preparation. Her speech went viral, reaching millions. But in the crowd that day sat a woman named Mrs. Collins, Brittany's mother. After the speech, she approached Mia in tears. "I'm so sorry," she said, voice shaking. "You didn't just change the school. You changed my daughter." Mia was skeptical, but soon she learned that Brittany, after being expelled, had checked into therapy for anger issues. She'd started volunteering at real charities. She even wrote Mia a letter, apologizing sincerely. Mia read it with mixed emotions, anger, relief, and something like forgiveness. She didn't respond immediately, but one sentence from Brittany's letter stayed with her: "You showed me what real strength looks like." Years passed. Mia graduated valedictorian, went to university, and later became a motivational speaker, helping other students stand up to bullying. But her story didn't end there. One day, at a conference, she met a young teacher who confessed, "I was one of the students recording that slap. I felt guilty ever since. But your courage made me become a teacher, to stop that from happening again." Mia realized then that what began as pain had turned into a ripple of change. Still, the internet never forgets. Occasionally, her past resurfaced in documentaries or TikTok edits. Some mocked her, others praised her. But Mia never let it define her. She understood something few people did, that forgiveness isn't forgetting, it's freedom. Then, 5 years later, another twist arrived. Crestwood High invited her back as the guest of honor for their annual event, the same talent show. Nervous but composed, Mia walked into the same auditorium, now renovated, brighter, filled with new faces. As she stepped onto the stage, she saw Brittany. Again, in the audience, this time clapping sincerely. After the show, they met backstage. Brittany extended her hand. "You really did change everything," she said. And Mia smiled. "We both did." That night, the video of their reunion went viral again, but now it wasn't about pain, it was about growth, forgiveness, and redemption. Mia's life became proof that the hardest moments can become the strongest weapons if wielded with intelligence and heart. The girl who was slapped in front of 200 students became the woman who inspired millions. And somewhere in the crowd, watching through tears, was her mother, proud, free, and finally at peace. Because her daughter didn't just change her own story, she changed everyone else's too. Sparkling Heart, subscribe now for more life-changing stories like this, stories that remind you that even when the world turns cruel, courage can turn the tide. Glowing Star.